And yes, you're very good morning. Welcome to Wednesday morning's OTB AM. Dave McIntyre in the hot seat this morning. Thanks for making us a part of your morning. Do get in touch with us at any stage over the next couple of hours on all of our social media channels. We're all a little bit sombre this morning. And of course, we'll be spending a little bit of time sifting through the debris of Ireland's defeat in Geneva last night. Damien Delaney will bring us through with his thoughts on what happened against Switzerland. Tommy is with us this morning. Hello.
Morning, Dave.
It's all pretty grim, isn't it?
It's horrible. Phil Egan said it this morning. He goes, lads, wouldn't it be so much easier if you just weren't a sports fan? You could sit there watching box sets or something.
But there would be something else going on in your life that you're passionate about that might let you down from time to time.
Yeah, you're right. But it's a tough time to be an Irish football fan when you're watching that.
Yeah, it is. There was, look, there's no question, and do let us know your thoughts on it at home, there's no question that it was a better performance than the one in Tbilisi, but it was still very poor and it was still made for very grim viewing, and there was a terrible sense of inevitability about the game. I felt that I just couldn't possibly see where the chance was going to come from. And let's be perfectly honest, they missed a penalty, they hit the post. We were blessed to get out of there with a 2-0 defeat. It could easily have been 6 or 7 if everything that the Swiss had done well had gone right for them.
Yeah, I think the overall feeling for me was frustration. Like, the first Swiss goal, Stefanic's goal, that came from a free that Aaron Connolly had won on the halfway line. RT had showed a replay, and next thing the ball's out of play and it's a throw in for Switzerland. And you're like, what's going on here? I nearly missed the Swiss goal because I rewinded it. James McLean had put the ball out of play. I don't know how James McLean got the ball in the first place. They obviously took a quick free. But like, why aren't we putting that in the box to Shane Duffy? You know? Like, why is that happening? And then they go down the field and they score a brutal goal. Like, the conditions were terrible. There was word before the game it was going to be a leveller, but it really wasn't. Like, it nearly exposed us more than anything.
Yeah, they were still able to pass. Yeah, if you are struggling in the passing department, the pitch is only going to expose you a little bit more than your opponents. And I've commentated on a lot of Switzerland's games, and bar 5-6 minute spells in each of their matches, they're excellent. They are a very good team. They're out of our league. They should have beaten us in Dublin. And they have 7 or 8 players who are playing at a really high level. There were 4 players starting last night that are regular starters with Borussia Mönchengladbach. They're top of the Bundesliga at the moment. They've got Premier League players in there. They've got a couple of guys in Serie A. Look, they're a good team.
They are.
And they're a younger team.
They are. And they know how to play 3-5-2 very well. I thought it was very telling last night. There was a moment where you could see Alan Brown was shadowing Granit Xhaka, and he was chasing him around, he's following him, and Fabian Schär, who scored the goal in Dublin, is coming out of defence of the ball, and Xhaka shows that he wants it, and he's opening up the space, and Schär goes forward, plays a 1-2 and sets up another chance.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they did well, and there was a lot of things we didn't do well. I find it very difficult to be critical of this Irish team because they're as committed and as hard-working as any Irish team that we've ever had. I look at Glenn Whelan last night, and I would have been as critical of anybody over Glenn Whelan over the last 10 or 15 years, but what a warrior that guy is for us.
Blocking balls in the 92nd minute.
Barely standing on his own 2 feet. He's that exhausted after playing 90 minutes twice in the space of a week at 35 years of age, not playing to a very high level at the moment in terms of his club. He's playing well for Hearts, but it's not Champions League football or anything.
He's 35 though, Dave. He's 35. Like, do we not have to be looking forward and saying, right, Glenn is just not good enough for us to get a win in Georgia? And like, if
there was a better guy than Glenn available, he'd be playing.
But do we not have to develop these players?
That's obviously a bigger picture, more far-reaching question. Do we not have to develop these players? But Mick McCarthy's remit is to qualify and not to develop the future of the Irish senior football team, because he's not going to be around for it. The FAI is in a terrible hole financially, and all he's been asked to do is to get us to the Euros in 2020. He's not being asked to bring someone like Malumbi through, or Conor Coventry through, or somebody like that.
Or Josh Cullen is sitting on the bench.
Or Josh Cullen.
Conor Hourihan, who didn't have a great game against Georgia, but like Conor Hourihan's delivery, he offers so much.
Yeah, I felt that he was the fall guy for Georgia. I thought it was a little unusual that, albeit he was poor in Tbilisi, I thought it was unusual that he was the guy that was... I mean, Jeff Hendrick was fortunate to be starting in place of Conor Hourihan, for example. And one thing about Jeff Hendrick last night, I consider him to be our best player. Potentially our best player. And there were little 5-minute spells in the second half where Jeff demanded the ball, got on the ball, moved the ball. We looked like a different side. Now, the frustration, and I've seen Jeff play many times live on our Premier League coverage and off the ball for Burnley, and doing that for longer spells in games.
He just disappears. I wonder
why he goes missing for so long. And we will put that to Damien Delaney as well. It's just an incredibly disappointing situation. And, you know, I was even more disappointed after the game to hear Mick McCarthy saying yet again that line, well, I would have taken this position, you know, the opportunity to win our last game and qualify. He said it before the Swiss game.
Yeah.
He said after the Georgia game, I would have taken 4 points.
It's just kicking the can down the road. That's all that is.
You know that by the time next month rolls around, we will be convincing ourselves that we're in with a shout.
I convinced myself last night. I was like, yes, Aaron Connolly's starting. Poor Aaron Connolly. Like, he showed flashes and moments last night where he's going to be an outlet for Ireland in years to come.
Yeah.
He is, like.
I was quite impressed with his first half performance for someone so young, living off the scraps that he was being forced to live off.
And the state of that pitch last night, like, that takes it out of your legs. It has to take it out of your legs. And there was no real invention up front. Like, Callum O'Dowda seemed to add something when he came on as well.
Yeah.
But again, O'Dowda's somebody who's barely playing for Bristol or playing in the championship at the minute. So, you know, it can be hard to start someone like that as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one for us, and I think we're in a position where we probably need a little bit of luck to go our way. We obviously need to keep a clean sheet, I think, because we've got 6 goals in 7 games, and there's absolutely little chance of us scoring more than once.
When you can see the first goal after 20 minutes last night or 15 minutes, like that's essentially it. Are you really not going to blame the players?
I watch them and I watch what they're giving, game in, game out, and I can't fault their effort.
Like, I'm so fond of James McLean on loads of levels, but in the last 2 games, he just hasn't been good enough. Mick said last night he needed a left-sided player. Like, that's why he started last night.
But you're getting from James what he can offer you, I think.
Can you not get that off the bench for 30 minutes?
For so long, I felt that the managers were to blame for the poor performances that the team was delivering, and I always felt that the managers, successive managers, going right back to, at times, Brian
Kerr.
Steve Staunton, Trapattoni, Martin O'Neill in particular, out of all of them, that they weren't getting the best out of the players, the best that they could possibly get from the collective. But now I'm starting to wonder, was I wrong for all of those years on that, holding that opinion, that maybe it is just the players are not simply not good enough. I mean, we have been banging this drum for a long time, going back to the end of the Trapattoni reign, right up until last night. Is it always the manager to blame?
Well,
are the players simply not there? Are the players simply incapable of keeping the ball, as we spent so much time discussing?
Yeah, like, it's so frustrating. Like, I remember Seamus Coleman, who wasn't great last night, probably hasn't been great in the last little while, but I remember him in 2016, in Euro 2016, and he was extolling his teammates to not just launch it whenever they got it, and they played a bit of football at Euro 2016. And last night after the match, Glenn Whelan came out straight away afterwards, and he's good at it, and obviously he's a warrior, as you said. And he said, we showed them too much respect in the first half. We didn't go and we didn't get at them. I know it's a bit of a cliche to say go and get at them, but when Ireland do go at teams, and as you said, pass and play, like, they can play. It's football. It's not rocket
When do we
science.
do that, though?
We don't. Like, they chased the game for 15 minutes last night, and they did look okay.
Perhaps we're not capable of it.
I think it's a mentality thing. Like, George...
If it's a mentality thing, it's changeable.
Yeah.
But why haven't we had managers that are capable of changing the mentality? We'll put all this to Damien, because I don't know what the answers are. I was a little more positive after last night, because I admire a lot of these players for the way that they man up. But watching them play is a very disheartening experience, unfortunately. And you want to be positive, and I know we will get towards the Denmark game, and we will feel that we have a chance. And, you know, maybe Mick is right. You know, we would have taken this before the tournament, the qualifying campaign began. Win your final home game to qualify for a major tournament. That's not a bad position to be in if we felt there was a real chance of us actually seeing it through. Let's get some of the reaction from Geneva last night. Here's Mick McCarthy on last night's performance.
Well, the first half performance was poor. Second half, I thought it was considerably better. And having been down to 10 men for the last 15 minutes was it so, I think they can be really proud of the way they carried on from that, certainly. And where are we? We won game from qualification, which I would have took before the tournament started.
You just said the first half performance, he said, was poor. Was that down to how the players played, or do you think maybe it was just the time adjusting to the different formation with the back three?
Well, if that was the reason that we consider the goal I played badly, I'll take the rap for that, because I changed it to try and get 2 strikers on, which I believe most people thought was quite promising and positive. I don't think that system caused us to have an inability to pass the ball to one another, that's for sure. So I won't take the rap for that. I'll consider my decisions in it. So no, I don't think it was. I think the fact that they had a very good side was the biggest contributing factor.
You mentioned the poor passing. What was that down to? Was it down to the players, or would you be pretty critical of the pitch?
Not the pitch, no. It didn't stop them playing on it, did it, to be honest? Much better second half. A far, far better performance.
Yeah, Mick, pretty honest there in terms of his lack of desire to blame the pitch for our inability to play with the ball. He does mention the formation and almost washes his hands of that decision to go with that 3-5-2 formation, insisting that was not the reason we played so badly in the first half. Now, I don't know whether that is the case or not. I don't think playing someone like Enda Stevens on the left side of a back three, or James McLean playing in that left wing back position instead of it either being Enda Stevens or Enda Stevens just playing left full and James playing left wing, I don't think that helped. But at the same time, there were so many things that we did wrong in the first half that were completely unrelated to the formation. Maybe Mick's right.
Yeah, we'll hear from Enda Stevens in a few moments, and he talks about the fact which he asks most of the players, did you get much time to practice this 3-5-2? And they all say, look, we just didn't, look. But the thing is, Enda Stevens plays a 3-5-2 with Sheffield United. John Egan plays the exceptionally well with Sheffield United. They've been playing it for 2 years under Chris Wilder. But Stevens is a left wing back. You know, Egan was in the right position, but like, was it an opportunity last night to put Matt Doherty in a right wing back? I was seeing it outside. He's playing that position, and maybe it's the fact that he's a different player when he's surrounded by Ruben Neves and João Moutinho, and not, you know, Jeff Hendrick and Glenn Whelan. But like, Seamus Coleman didn't have a great game last night. We saw Aaron Connolly 10 minutes into his first debut, or his first start for Ireland, throwing his arms up in the air at his international captain. Like, as Coleman booted the ball out of play 2 or 3 times. And like, he got sent off last night and it was harsh, and he tries his heart out. And I love Seamus Coleman. I think he's phenomenal. He's fantastic. He's such an admirable footballer. But Matt Doherty has 7 caps. Like, Damien Delaney has only 9 caps for Ireland. I was looking at it early on. Matt Doherty has only 7 caps. How many is he going to end up with by the time he finishes?
Yeah, again, just
to see
really critical of Seamus Coleman, I find is difficult because he's been a brilliant player for us, and over the last 12 months he's definitely come back to some of the best form that we've seen over the last 10 years. And look, it's no surprise that emotionally and physically it took him a while to get over that leg break.
Of course.
He will know, for a guy that has set incredibly high standards and has probably been Ireland's standout performer in Premier League football for 10 years now, he'll know the last night was not one of his better nights. And we're all, in terms of any work that we do, we all know when we have underperformed at whatever it is that we're doing. And it wasn't great for him. He gave the ball away a lot, and he obviously he gave the penalty away, which I think, you know, that can happen.
What are you going to do?
And the red card that followed can happen. I don't blame him for that. But
there was no replays of the penalty last night, but it was a penalty. It was a penalty. There was some very odd angles and some very odd replays, some very odd lack of replays. They obviously got through the wrong graphic up when it came to Shane Duffy. There was a confusion around
that. Fooled George for start, because I think a lot of us watching it felt that we couldn't remember 3 yellow cards that Shane Duffy had received. But once UEFA and their director threw the graphic up, you just take that as read, and we're thinking, well, there goes probably our best attacking outlet for the Denmark game. But you know, thankfully Shane Duffy is available, and he was responsible for one of our best chances when he headed straight at Jan Sommer, and either side of the goalkeeper, it may have been a different outcome. Richie, as you mentioned, Tommy was over in Geneva for Off the Ball last night. He also caught up with Enda Stevens after the game.
Yeah, it was a tough game, obviously disappointed. We came into the game thinking we could have got a result, and unfortunately we just couldn't get it.
How long have you been working on that different formation? Because it seemed to start off with 3 at the back there tonight, and yourself being operating on the left-hand side of that defence. How long, or how many training sessions have been put into putting out that performance, or that formation, I should say?
Well, we didn't really get the chance to the day before the game, because obviously I probably had people watching our training session, so that was the most difficult part about it, and the quick turnaround. But we have players in the team that know the formation and know the position. Obviously they play, me and Eags play, Duff's plays, so we kind of knew the role, but it just never really kind of clicked for us, and then we changed formation, and we kind of got a foothold in the game a bit.
Was it more difficult for you to operate on that left-hand side defence rather than the left wing-back role that you might be used to at Sheffield United?
Well, I've played both, so I understand kind of both positions. So I think it was just it was just a difficult first half for us. I don't think we passed the ball too well. We were very sloppy in possession, and we just gave them a lift, you know, with our sloppiness, and we were on the back foot from the start.
Can you put your finger on why it seems to have been so hard? I know we've been playing 2 away games back to back, and they're pretty difficult places to come both. But can you put your foot on why it has been so difficult to maintain possession in both of these games?
We just gotta be more confident on the ball, and it's everyone on the ball. We need to help each other out, and it just seems to be we go a goal down and then we start playing, and that's one thing that we need to start games like 1-0 down, you know.
This game coming up now against Denmark is pretty much like Vladimir Pekovic described tonight as, for Switzerland, being a cup final. A month's time at the Aviva Stadium is absolutely a cup final from an Irish perspective. How do you view the Danish challenge? You would have had a look at what they did against Switzerland the other night. They're potentially, according to some, the second best side in the night, but we know it's probably not going to be easy again.
No, it's not going to be easy, but it's a cup final, you know, and that's what we want to play. We want to play in big games, and we have a chance to qualify with a home game in the Aviva. So we just got to look forward to it and show up, and hopefully we can do that and put on a performance and win the game.
Does that almost bizarrely suit this side in that we know exactly what we have to do going into the final game, rather than there being slightly muddy waters of 3 games and you're kind of like, well, if we get a point here, if we get a point here. Now we know, much like if you go down a goal down and the side managed to kick in and start to play a bit of ball, we know now that we can only win, or there's nothing else can happen from that game.
Yeah, it was the same mentality tonight. We knew if we won here we qualified, and the mentality doesn't change, you know. Denmark, it's going to be a tough game, but we're at home, and hopefully the fans will be that third man and drive us on, and that's what we want. It's going to be a cup final atmosphere, hopefully, and they'll be good, they'll be at it, but we need to be confident at home, play on the front foot, put them under pressure, and just get that result that we were desperate for.
What did Mick say to you in the dressing room after the game?
He was disappointed that we didn't keep possession, because he sees us in training and we're playing, and he was just disappointed that we couldn't get a foothold in the game, and that wasn't about formation or anything. That was just down to us being confident to pass the ball, and it was everyone, you know. There was too many straight passes going out of play, and we were just giving them the lift that we didn't want to give them, and obviously we went a goal down, and we went to 4-3-3, and we kind of got that foothold in the game.
Yeah, that's Richie in conversation with Ennis Stevens after the game last night. Unsurprisingly, Ennis Stevens looked a lot more comfortable when he made the switch back out to left back. A couple of your comments coming in on YouTube. Macker on YouTube: still can't believe we only need 3 points from our last 2 games to qualify. Well, it's our last 1 game now. It doesn't even feel like we've done anything even decent in this campaign. Darren on YouTube: well, the players have to take some blame. They are well capable of playing the ball. Majority do it week in, week out for their clubs. Main example is the Sheffield United players. They aren't as good for us. I'm going to put that to Damon Delaney, because I think there is some truth in what Darren is saying there, but at the same time they're surrounded by far better players when they're playing in the Premier League, and I think they're playing with a little less pressure as well, and maybe something to do with moral courage. It's a term that John Giles has used for many, many years, that when they've got a green shirt on them, I just don't think they're as willing to do what it takes to get on the ball and then try and use it constructively at the risk of giving it away. Whereas if you just play it over the top, play it down the channels, you've almost washed your hands of any risk of giving the ball away, and then if you're highly unlikely that a goal or a major incident is going to occur from that. Look, it's a tough one. Let's go and finish on one other aspect of the game last night. Those who were watching closely, Tommy, would have realised that Mick McCarthy didn't even use all of his bench. On a really energy-sapping night, on the back of 2 games away from home, on a really sodden pitch. Guys like Matt Doherty, Callum Robinson, Conor Howran left on the bench. Alan Judge, who came off the bench in Copenhagen and changed things.
Josh Cullen could have added a bit of energy.
None of them got an opportunity to show what they could do on a really difficult evening. Why did Mick make use of that third sub when we were chasing the game?
Just regarding substitutions, there was a few players looking a bit leggy towards the end. Could I just ask maybe why you didn't make that third substitution?
Because we were doing well, actually. And having to make the third substitution, we were down to 10 men at that time. Callum O'Dowd was on. I'm always James McLean. He's always going to give us something. We put Scott Hogan on. I don't think anything was going to really change that, to be quite honest. And I thought we were doing okay with the subs we had on.
Didn't really answer you there, did he?
No, I'm not sure I buy that.
No.
I don't think he's anything to lose by. It doesn't really matter whether we lose 6-0 last night.
Like, if you want to save the draw and we're down to 10 men, why not bring on Doherty? Why not bring on Derek Williams? Like, bring on somebody, give us a bit of legs.
Yeah, and James McLean, Glenn Whelan, Seamus Coleman was obviously gone at that stage, but there's some very tired-looking bodies. It's hard to see the logic of not using all three of your substitutions. But look, however, here we are. So it's a busy morning on OTB AM this morning. Here's what is coming up over the next couple of hours. We have been getting our reaction to what happened in Geneva last night. We'll get more of that with Damon Delaney later, but we're going to bring you through the morning sports pages now over the next 20 minutes or so. Damon will be on just after 8 o'clock. Very interesting piece from Japan in the build-up to the Ireland-New Zealand Rugby World Cup quarter-final this weekend. Owen Sheehan has been in conversation with the legendary New Zealand scrum half Justin Marshall, so well worth sticking around for that. Mike McCarthy is going to be with us around about 20 to 9 to continue our preview of that game and maybe have a look at one or two of the other quarter-finals as well. It's an absolute blockbuster weekend, Saturday and Sunday, two brilliant games on both days. And then we'll have Phil in as well, just after 9 for the latest in the sports news. But for now, it's time to go through the morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Independent. Ireland stuck in the mud. McCarthy ready for winner-takes-all clash after Swiss expose familiar flaws. And then there's a line on the New Zealand-Ireland game as well from Rory O'Connor in the Independent. O'Mahony relishing shot at biggest match of his career, which tells me Peter O'Mahony's going to be starting in the back row.
Sounds like it.
There you go.
I've the Irish Star here, Dave. Pain in the Swiss. Paul Lennon's piece on the defeat in Geneva last night. And down at the bottom here, injured De Gea, doubt for Koptai. So United are in trouble. It's a tough,
they are in trouble.
Tough time to be an Ireland fan and a Manchester United fan at the minute. It's grim.
Is that what you are?
Unfortunately, yeah.
That news will have filtered through last night that David De Gea, he pulled something taking a goal kick, was it?
Yeah. I think he made a couple of saves in the game.
He made some brilliant saves last night for Spain against Sweden. A huge result for the Swedes, but he hobbled off and he hasn't got much time to get himself ready for that Liverpool game coming up in the Premier League weekend that's ahead of us. So Sergio Romero, Lee Grant.
Well, Romero's a pretty decent backup keeper, but he's not De Gea, and United are just in such a bad place at the minute. I also just want to mention in the Star, Carlo Kane's column, is GA Congress up to the mark? And it's just kind of looking at the attacking mark that's up for debate this weekend at the Special Congress. We might come back to it a little later, but the sin bin, is it going to be better than a black card? A lot of people think it might be. Taking a kick out from the 20-metre line is another rule that's up for debate, for discussion. And then there's the attacking mark, which I've been lost in the full forward line for the last couple of years playing club football. I'd love if that was brought in. It would force the boys to kick the ball into me a bit more. But it's a really interesting one. You saw Conor McManus and Monaghan use it so well in the league.
Yeah. I
actually really like the way they use it.
Well, I'm certainly a fan of the sin bin, and I would like to see that replace the black card, even for a trial period of, I'm talking in the Championship now, not prelim competitions or the Alliance Leagues. I'd love to see it in the Championship, because I do think that you're hurting the team immediately.
Absolutely.
I don't think a team is hurt at all by a black card, unless they've used all of their subs, and that does happen maybe at the very end of games.
I think at club level it makes more of an impact, or even for smaller clubs it makes more of an impact. But for the likes of Dublin, you're rolling on somebody it's a like-for-like replacement, somebody who's just as good.
Plus I think the effect extends to club level as well, because not every junior club out there has got 26 guys on the side, or 26 guys in their squad and 9 guys on the sideline, and if they do lose a couple of guys to black cards, they can just bring somebody else on. They maybe won't have that. They've got maybe 4 guys on the sideline, and they want to make a couple of changes, and they've lost 2 guys to black cards, and that leaves them hamstrung for the rest of the match. So at least every team, if they've got 15 on the pitch, will be able to cope with a sin bin situation, provided they don't get 2 or 3 guys sent off at the same time. The attacking mark, I'm still on the fence on that. I just think it's got too much of a bang of the AFL off it for me.
Really?
I take your point on how well it was used by certain teams in this year's league. Monaghan were the best at it, particularly in that win over Dublin and Clonus. I'm just not sold on it yet.
I even think Dublin in the Championship were playing as if there was an attacking mark in place. You saw Brian Fenton, whenever he got a free, hand up, looking inside for Conor Callaghan, Kieran Kilkenny. They rotated Paul Mannion inside in that full forward line, and they actually used the strength of their full forward line to launch ball into them, and they were good enough to roll their men or burst through them. I actually think it would actually improve the game of Gaelic football. I think it's worth trialling and seeing if it does.
It may improve the game, but I think there will be situations as well, and I'm thinking of the likes of Conor Callaghan, whose instinct when he hits the ground is to get turned, beat his man and go for goal.
But you don't have to take the mark.
But I think players immediately will stop playing.
I'm not sure about that.
As soon as they make the catch inside what they believe to be the scoring zone, I don't think any player will continue to make his run or try and lay it off or try and pop a little hand pass over the top to someone who's running behind. I think instinct will kick in and you will stop playing immediately, and then you will have this delay and lads going through pre-kick routines and taking their X number of steps back and there's 3 steps sideways and licking their fingertips and all this kind of stuff, I think, could crop into the game, and it could take 60 seconds every time someone makes an attacking mark.
You only have like 3 to 5 seconds to take a mark, like take your attacking mark. Like, you don't have that much time. But the defenders have to step back and you get to take your mark, and that's it.
6 seconds is an exaggeration, but I would be amazed if we see this 3 to 5 seconds rule.
I'd love to actually see it. I'd love to see it next year, the attacking mark and play. And that might be because I'm biased and I'm
not disagreeing with you, because I'm actually going to sit on the fence on this one, because I'm just not convinced as yet, but I'm for anything that improves the game, and therefore would not rule it out in any way. I'm up next, am I? This is the back of the Herald. The winner takes it all. Tough night for Ireland, but Boss McCarthy backs his players. Mick McCarthy says he's happy to take on a winner-takes-all situation at home to Denmark next month, despite last night's loss in Switzerland. Look, that is the narrative he has to go with, because that's the situation he finds himself in. Had we won last night, he probably would have been saying, I'm so delighted we don't have to go down to that pressure cooker that is the final game. I was dreading having to have it all riding on that, the pressure that would come with that. So I'm delighted that we're qualified already. But look, he needs to take the positives out of last night if he can at all, like he did in Tbilisi, and look ahead with some optimism to the Danish game. I
have the Irish Sun here, Mud Grief, and also Dane Coles at the top with Neil O'Riordan in Tokyo. We're not afraid. Dane Coles insists the All Blacks are not worried about Ireland's recent record against them. And just going to jump inside again, there's a piece on our toes here. During their first meet, senior final. Just want to mention really quickly, Davy Byrne, the former Dublin goalkeeper, is their boss at the minute. It's an interesting piece of Paul Keane, it's worth reading. We're told we're one of those towns around that have been Dublinised, say. They had a population of 4,000 back in 2002, 2003. They were still a junior club. The population is over 10,000 now. They won a junior in 2012. There's some of Meath's finest footballers in the club. Conor McGill, the full-back, Brian McMahon. I remember playing football underage, and there's so many kids from a tote that were up and around the best in the county. They're in their first ever senior final. They won a junior, then intermediate fairly quickly afterwards. They're playing Summerhill. It's an interesting story. It's a very interesting story, and how that community has exploded the population there, and all those commuter towns in Meath. Part of me isn't convinced that the Dublinisation of Meath football has been a good thing, because you're losing the likes of some players who just aren't interested in playing with Meath. But there's plenty of footballers in Ratoath that are. Overall,
I think it'll rise the Meath boat, and we are seeing slow signs that maybe Meath is turning a corner. They're back in Division 1. They had a reasonable championship. I think that's not being fair. They had a very good championship getting to the Super 8. So it's been a really interesting couple of weeks in the club scene. We saw what happened with Porry Pierce at the weekend, which was just incredible to finally get over that hurdle in Roscommon, having lost, was it 9? This was their 10th final or their 11th final?
It was definitely 5 since 2005.
They'd definitely lost 9, if not 10, before they finally got over the line at the weekend. I'll give a shout out to Ramsey United, unfortunately beating in the Cavan County final, which is my father's home team. So that would have been an excellent, although Castlereagh backing up what they did last year after they won their first county title. So I think some of the incredible club stories are lost at times, because there are so many of them. It's difficult to keep.
There were 17 finals at the weekend. Yeah, exactly. Senior finals, 17 senior finals at the weekend.
And some really interesting semi-finals as well. I've got the Irish Examiner in my hands now. Muddy misery, Swiss down 10 men, Ireland in Geneva, glue pot. And there's a little angle on the bottom left-hand corner. Cole Comfort, Kenny's Ireland under-21 suffer a setback in Iceland. It was a really dark day for Irish football yesterday. I was so buoyed watching the under-21s and the manner in which they approached and the courage with which they approached the game against Italy last Thursday. And I was just the hype bubble maybe has burst a little around the 21s, but on reflection, reading up on the game, we played quite well, according to reports. We were done for the penalty that Iceland converted. Eidur Gudjonsson's son tucking that away, and we had several very good chances, so maybe all was not lost on that front.
We were both struggling to find a stream yesterday, and we both failed. Couldn't watch it, but you're right, the performances were very good before that. I've the mirror here. Hit them very hard. Boss wants UEFA racism crackdown. Gareth Southgate referring to the shame in Sofia earlier in the week. And step up to the mark. And a photo of Jeff Hendrick, and then there's also Peter O'Mahony. This time it's very different. Also Harry Redknapp has a column. I'm convinced Liverpool will win the Premiership. We'll come back to that.
Yeah, he's hardly going out on a limb there, Harry, is he?
No.
That they are sitting atop of a pretty sizable lead, and they're comfortably looking to be the best team in England at the moment. This is the Irish Daily Mail. Clinging on, Ireland's Euro hopes hang by a thread after Geneva defeat. Errors will kill us against the Kiwis, says O'Mahony. a nod to how perfect a performance we are going to need this weekend. We're chatting to Mike McCarthy on Ireland-New Zealand later in the show. Interested going from Johnny Sexton in the build-up that Ireland could put together the best performance they're capable of and still lose. I think we all know that is possibly the case.
I think there's a performance coming. I really believe there's a performance coming. I think it's going to be epic.
Hope you're right.
Front of the racing post, she's coming back. Enabled gunning for third arc in 2020. At the back here, England set for Vinopola injury boost. England number 8, Billy Vinopola, is likely to be fit for Saturday's Rugby World Cup quarter-final against Australia. And the Telegraph also lead with Billy Vinopola and Lewis Hamilton in the corner here. I feel like I'm giving up on everything. And Andy Murray, Kim, his wife, always tried to keep me going and help him get back in court. Murray's obviously had a nightmare time.
London Times, counselling for England's abused stars. That was pretty dark stuff that was taking place on Tuesday night with the racist idiots in Sofia that you would finally hope this is the tipping point and that UEFA will get the finger out and start handing out some seriously severe punishments, because right now the deterrents simply are not there for this kind of behaviour.
The Guardian, remarkable. Players stronger for racism, more deals, says at Southgate. And you're right, there has to be action. There really has to be action at these things. And D-Day for Billy Vinopola, quarter-final fitness race, and Scotland are facing action over typhoon comments. So World Rugby are not happy that Scotland threatened to cause a bit of trouble if the game wasn't going to go ahead. So it's a hypothetical.
I'd say they wish the game hadn't gone ahead.
I know.
If they were given a chance to turn back
28-21, they turned it around. I know it was looking pretty ropey in the...
Yeah, they needed to throw in 2 or 3 more tries to have any chance.